There you go. So now, Altered Carbon. So if you've not watched the show, you can tune out. But if you have, or if you're interested, you can, because I'm going to do them on spoilers as usual. I'll get into spoilers. Altered Carbon Season 1, which was a few years ago, right? It's been a while, and I wasn't sure if the show was coming back. They announced Anthony Mackie was the new star, and if you've not seen the show, pretty much I can just say this is a minor spoiler, but these people have these things called stacks, and it's like your consciousness is uploaded to a hard drive, and you can be inserted into other bodies, and they call them skins and whatnot, kind of, or sleeves, sorry. So it's very much, video gamey, sci-fi, stuff like that. I loved the first season. Go back and check out my review. I said it was probably one of, if not my favorite, Netflix original at the time. I don't know. I'd have to make a list, too, of what's there now. And I loved the world. I loved the LA kind of detective noir feel of theirs. And the Blade Runner, where this guy is, looking into a mystery that has something to do with himself, but other things as well. And it has the great classic vibe of it's slowly paced. You don't exactly know what's going on. Who can I trust? Every kind of trope, I love that. Yeah, I love sci-fi, and I love the kind of noir detective style like Blade Runner. And I thought they did that really well. There was always every episode something interesting. There was great action. Visuals were great. Budget for the most part I think was great. Always looked really well. And I loved it. And it felt like a grand, huge, epic movie. And other than, I think if I remember that review, I think the first few episodes were very slow. And I like slow stuff, but were very slow. And I think they didn't do the greatest job of setting up the world right away and the rules of it. You had to learn, and people would refer to things. It's kind of like my new job where people say, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. Like, well, I've never done those 3 things, so I need to know what that is. So that's the same thing with that, where I felt like they didn't explain it well to the viewers. But overall, I thought it was a great show. So I was excited for this. I like the idea of Anthony Mackie because I've liked him more and more ever since Winter Soldier. With Winter Soldier, I was like, oh, I think he's fine. Ever since then, I've liked him more and more, whether it's Pain and Gain or Black Mirror. He's always impressed me, and I'm very excited for him to be the next Captain America. This season, I still won't spoil it in case you want to check it out. First season ended with a cliffhanger of he has a certain goal he has to get to, and a certain person he's going to find. I'll just say that. Season 2, for me, it's tough because I enjoyed it, but I was not finding myself being driven to watch the next episode. I didn't that's why this review is a little later. I didn't like the last season or other Netflix shows. I didn't binge it all in one because I just wasn't that motivated. I took a few times to watch Kim Possible with my daughter instead because it's just... It was good, and I think it had some high spots, but its highs never reached season 1. I think there is, very much like last season, season 1 has a lot of setup in the middle, or a lot of setup at the beginning. You kind of know the rules of the world now, so that's not really a problem for me, but there's a lot of setup. It's very slow, and this episode's only 8 seasons, so that's good because it's shorter, but at the same time, I felt like there was a lot less left on the table, and I'm not sure if that's because I felt like the first season was not that popular, or it wasn't that big, or maybe it's the budget of the show. In Canada, on Netflix, we now have those trending things. I think it's got high up to number 4 on Netflix throughout the weekend as far as trending. So I'm hoping we get more, and that shows I still like it enough. I just don't see enough people really talking about this. Even when I saw it, I know only Kyle watched it, and that was about it. So I liked it, but I didn't find myself being driven to watch it. I didn't find that need to keep going. I think the middle episodes were the best because they introduced a plot element that I really liked. I thought it could be really interesting, but then it kind of just gets shoved to the side. I think because, and this is a minor spoiler, but not really, because the way stacks work in the show is, your stack could be destroyed, and that means you're dead, but unless you maybe upload your consciousness to somewhere else in a different hard drive. That, for me, is kind of a problem in this show because the amount of fake deaths you get are quite heavy. I did applaud that there was a lot of cameos and Easter eggs from the first season or characters coming back. There's one character in particular, like Poe. He's like a VR version of Edgar Allan Poe. He ran a ran a hotel called the Raven, and I really like that character. And I like the way that they had him set up at first. And then they take him on this weird journey for himself, and I was not into that. And that's my problem, that everything that I thought I could be into is like, it was a nice setup, and let's see where this goes. And I didn't really enjoy it. And then everything else was kind of generic. I think it's acted well. It still looks great. I'm a fan of Anthony Mackie. My only con on Anthony Mackie is I feel it's a similar con that I had to Shazam the film, where the boy, and many people have said this, the boy, Billy, and then Shazam did not feel like the same person. And this is another thing. This is not the same way as Shazam. It's not back to back. I need to go and watch Altered Carbon, which I probably will one day because I like that first season. I need to go watch that again to see. But from what I remembered of Kovacs, and then this, it didn't always line up. It felt like a different person. And yeah, you can say someone's changing this and that, but it didn't feel exactly like that. It felt like different characters. It felt very specific, like Anthony Mackie playing this character instead of, Anthony Mackie trying to be this character. Or even then, just like he's doing his own version of it, and that's fine. But for me, the stack is to represent, like, that's the same conscious, the same person all the time. It's not like when you switch sleeves, you're switching personalities a little bit. So I didn't really get that same feel, but maybe that's just there's been a little bit of time. And then a lot of the other stuff, maybe I said this already, but I felt was very predictable or tropey or cliche-ish. There was one near the end that I didn't see coming, which I really liked. There's a few that stood out. I'll mention those when I get into spoilers. But I think it was a step down, and I think it was actually quite a bit of a step down. Like I said, I think most of those tropes that they did, or the genres they did, the detective noir, the sci-fi, the Blade Runner, the cyberpunk sort of deal, they did those well in season 1 and very well. Maybe a few problems here and there, where this felt a bit more on the generic side. It felt more like many other B sci-fi movies that I had seen before. Action never really stood out. I remember that was one thing in, I think it was like episode 3 or 4 Altered Carbon, where it was slower, but then there was this great kick-ass action scene, and I was hooked in. And then ever since then, it was like the show kept going up, up, up. But it was this action scene that was just like a kick in the door, like, okay, wake up, like we're getting to the really good stuff now. I never felt that. Like I said, there was a storyline that had that, but then I think it kind of petered off. I'm trying to think what else I could say non-spoilers, but yeah, I think it was a step down, and I will watch season 3 if they make one. I don't know if they will. I will watch because I think they did a nice little path set up, but I couldn't recommend this season, and I could go back and watch Altered Carbon season 1 and not have to watch the season, and I think that is not a great thing. I think that's something that shows me the quality of the show. And like for a rating, just because I've tried to do this on my solo reviews now a bit more in the non-spoiler, so my rating is kind of like a 6.5, and I think my first one was like a 9.5, something like that. So that's a pretty big drop. I remember stuff, but I don't remember it fondly, and not only like, oh, I hate it. I just like, right, that happened and that happened. Where season 1, I did review a lot quicker, but that just showed how much I was into it. This was, I think, in a week from now, you asked me what happened, I came like, oh, well, this character died, this person came back, and there's this reveal, and what was like? I can't remember. Like, it's already some of the details are slipping for me, and I think that's the sign of not the greatest. And the other thing was because they got a lot of flack from this last time that there was maybe too much sexualization of women, which I'm not a woman, so I can't say if they did or didn't. For me, it felt pretty equal. There was some times where I felt it was unnecessary, and maybe that's what they're referring to. But there's also a lot of dicks in the show and stuff like that, so I felt like there was lots of nudity all around. This is. And this would only take a little bit marks to me, but that's the thing with the first season. It felt so relentless and out there, and it still felt like it did enough, other than maybe one scene in particular where this character was naked and fighting. I don't think they need to do that, but for the most part, felt like it had a style to it. This season, 1, the nudity is very downplayed, and 2, even the sex scenes, they're very like sensual and romantic, like where other they had them in season 1, but they also had like just your big hardcore sex scenes, which I don't need, but it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like the same show, and sometimes it felt like they got a studio note of being like, tone this down a bit because we got some complaints. So yeah, those are my non-spoiler thoughts. I'm gonna give you the spoilers right now. I don't have too much to say, just maybe some reasons why I will be watching, some things I liked and didn't, and a bit more specifics, but I'm gonna give you the 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna take a drink of my water, and then we're off to the races. 3, 2, 1. That was a bit fast of a 3, 2, 1, eh? Oh well. So, where to start? The thing I really liked is what they introduced in the middle of the season, because like I said, the first few, there's 8 episodes. The first 2, I think it's 3 when they introduced us, so the first 2 were slow, kind of just going through the motions. I felt we're looking for Queel, right? His like love interest from the first season, Talk's love interest, and there's a lot of that. There's a classic trope that she's evil, but it's revealed that she's kind of taken over by, these are very small terms, but like some sort of virus, and that virus eventually jumps into this person. So it's very, okay, we've seen this before. We get their AI and something's corrupting. So it's like this idea of, oh, I love this woman, she's normal, but there's something infecting her. What do I do? Do I kill her? This and that. Stuff we had seen before. What I loved is they introduced that Tok had, so we are following Tok since season 1, all his versions through Joel Kinnaman, who I really enjoyed in season 1, and Anthony Mackie, who I enjoyed enough, but like I said, I think I had some issues with the characters, kind of mixing and splicing together. So he's on this journey, and what happens is the bad guys, and it was Jaeger, this guy who died last season, but of course now he's back, he's in a new sleeve and everything like that, and that happens a lot, and that's where I was like, okay, and that's where sometimes the show feels weird, because it's all these people playing the same characters, but they feel like they've been recasted, like they've lost everyone, they gotta recast the entire show. So it can be a fun gimmick, but at times it feels a little too gimmicky, whether it's that or, like I said, no one ever really dies, or so, I have an upload, I have this, so you got that going on. So Jaeger's back, but he has had this thing where somewhere in the system they've uploaded Tok's stack from a certain point. So we have our main Tok, and I'll just call him Kovacs, who's been going the entire show, right? He's going. Let's say he's like 30 years, and that's what I think they say, that he's like 30 years ahead of the Tok who's in war. And what happens is they bring him out and say, hey, you somehow rebelled against us, you went with this person, with that person, you need to fix the errors of your ways. So you kind of have like, not a Gemini Man sort of situation, but you have this guy who's been living his whole life, but then you have someone, that same guy, 30 years earlier, before he met this woman that he fell in love with, to rebel against these actual people, to turn his back on, friends in quotations, because lots of them were pieces of shit soldiers that were doing some really bad stuff. So I loved this dynamic of, it's not just, at first I thought, oh, it's going to be some guy in a Tok sleeve. That's kind of fun, right? Because it's just like, okay, you're versing yourself. But this was literally, you are versing a younger version of yourself, the original version. And I like that. And for those 2 episodes, that was a main theme. And then he got captured, and him and Kovacs had one conversation, and then he was pretty much completely fine. And then to me, he was just resorted to another side character helping out. Now, which we'll get into the end in a little bit here, they set him up to be the main character season 3, which is cool, because I really like that actor. If you go back to season 1, I said I hope at one point we can get back to his sleeve and he'd be the main guy, because even more than Anthony Mackie and Joel Kinnaman, I love this guy in the role. I've only seen him in the Wolverine before, so I'm a fan of this actor. So I'm happy about that he could be the potential lead, and I really like the idea of he's fighting Kovacs, he's quicker than him, he knows his moves, he's a bit more violent and brutal because he hasn't had these experiences to soften him down. He's still on the hunt because he just believes that Kovacs killed his sister, he doesn't know the reason. And I think the point of getting him on the team was a good idea, and I think it should always went that route. I just think it happened a little bit fast. I think there could have been more you could have played with, but maybe they're saying that for season 3, the same way Quell's there, and it's like, oh, I fall in love with this woman, and they talk a little bit, and he does seem like he might be falling for her, but I just think they were there, but they got a little sidelined, because we had, I can't remember her full name, Simone something, who plays Misty. She's there, and she's looking for her brother, and we kind of seen a similar storyline to that last year with, what is the name? It was that girl he is with. She has the cameo when he gets put in the fight arena and they start putting in sleeves of everybody from his past. I can't remember her name, but it was that same thing of like, I'm trying, like, my husband's actually in jail and I'm working to try and figure this all out. So it was kind of very similar in that route. So I liked that, and that's when the show was really picking up, and those 2 middle episodes were great where he's on the hunt after them. But then I think it's resolved very quickly. The villain in this, not that great. I liked the villains last season as far as you had James Porfori, or however you say his name. I liked that kind of family. That was the detective side dynamic and the cop stuff. And then you also had Ree, his sister, who was behind this whole organization. And there was a twist, and then there was nice reveal episodes. This didn't really have. This was just like evil business lady being evil. I was like, okay, it reminds me a lot like, because we're doing them, Casino Royale to Quantum of Solace, because Casino Royale had multiple villains and they're all interesting in their own route, where this just had like very generic, I'm bad because I'm bad and I like money. It's like, oh, okay. And we're gonna make the sky fall and do some there's another James Bond has to do a sky fall and people are gonna get hurt and everything. And that's the other thing. I think that I could be wrong, but I feel like season 1 had some implications that could hurt the world or characters, but it didn't feel like a world or city ending event where this kind of gets that. It's like, they're saving the city. It's just like, and that's what I liked with the first season. It felt more personal, where this felt a lot more grand. The first season very much had that, noir detective feel, where it's this guy's on a mission. He's trying to find out stuff about himself in the past. He's trying to put his life back together, but he's also working for, the cops or whatever their version is, and he's trying to solve these mysteries. And it feels very small and contained. That's kind of what I like in movies, how I like in my superhero movies for the most part. I like your Endgames, of course, but majority, I want most superhero movies to be small and contained, because I don't always want to be a world-ending event, because there's only so much you can do. And this was another, like, there's a beam and we gotta stop it. I was like, all right. So that's where it felt less personal. And as far as the detective stuff, we didn't get much of that in season 1. Really focused on that. Like I said, it was small cases. This just felt like it's Kovacs, characters they like, and they're on the run. They're going from place to place to place, and there's action, but then they're going place to place to place, and the mysteries, they were nothing, because they'll be like, this guy got killed. Who killed him? But then they showed us previously who actually killed him. It was like Quell or whatever, and she was like, had the virus and she was infected. So it's like, well, we know. There's no tension of who did this, because we've seen this. So yeah, I feel that the detective stuff when it was in there was weak, and there wasn't much of it. Like I said, it was much more of a action sci-fi show, and I don't think it nailed that well, because I don't even think the action was that amazing. But even that was just stuff we'd kind of seen before. Poe's journey was just, I don't know, he's finding out what it's like to be a person. And that's like, if this was a 13 episode one, that would have been a case where we'd be like, you could have cut some of this stuff. This was 8 episodes. I still feel like you could have cut some of the stuff. I would have just preferred, and I really like Poe, and I like the actor there, but I would have just preferred in the first 2 episodes, he is almost like his video game sidekick, like menu pull up, like, how can I help you, sir? What about this? And he has like a few little scenes where he's glitching out and going, that's fine. But he has like a bunch of, I just feel like his journey you could really cut out. And they try to tie it to Kovacs, because him and Kovacs have this falling out. But then in the last 2 episodes, they're kind of like, you've always been with me, and blah, blah. But they just didn't feel like they had enough time together, and maybe that's the risk of having a new actor play against Poe, because Poe is the same, and you saw his relationship grow with Kovacs last season. But in this season, it feels almost new, because it's a new Kovacs, and to me, he feels different. So the Poe stuff, it didn't really grab me. I didn't really care. It was just, there were some fun visuals and some fun ideas, but again, kind of this AR or VI realizing that they feel life or human, or they're falling in love. It's stuff that it can be done well. I think it was done fine here, but it's also stuff we've seen many times, right? The only thing that gets me kind of, I won't say really excited, because I thought the season was just fine, but would be excited for season 3. I don't know if it's going to happen, because it's trending, but I still don't feel like I see people talking about it, and I feel like it is a bit more of an expensive show, is a Talk being the main character, because so Anthony Mackie, who is Kovacs, who's been our main character the whole time, he sacrifices himself, because they said the situation where Quell has to die, but he takes it in his, he doesn't want to see her die again, so he takes it in his advantage. And plus, we kind of still have Kovacs / Talk as our main character, right? Because the old one, the one we knew, dies, but the older one is still around. The one that hasn't been around the past 30 years, who has this consciousness, hasn't exactly fallen in love with Quell, who hasn't actually been through the rebellion. So I think that's really fun. I think that's kind of like a man at a time in a way, but also it's a, hey, this guy has lots of expectations, lots of things he's done, but I haven't done those things, even though I have that record. So I think maybe some of my problems of not exploring him enough would get explored in a 3rd season. So maybe retroactively I could like it a bit more, but it just on the whole felt like they kind of missed an opportunity. But I really like that actor, and I liked that idea, so that's where I could be back in for a season 3 potentially if they're doing it. So yeah, that's Altered Carbon season 3. If you liked it, if you're watching on the video, please let me know, or tweet at me. My hashtag, my handle's in the description there, or tweet at GeekFirst. We're always wanting to conversate, or Facebook messages, anything, whether it's me or anybody else but a topic, whether it's Dylan's Dreams review or something like that, whether it's one of our Tales and Invisible Man. We're always wanting to talk. We're always wanting to discuss. So if you feel differently, if you love the season, let me know. But for me, yeah, I felt like I kind of missed the mark. So yeah, that's another dynamic duo. As I said before, all the links, you know where to find us. Just go down in the description down below for the video and audio feeds. And until next time, which will probably be some point next week. We'll have a newscast this week. There'll be some reviews for something. But until next time, it will not be boring. And I will see you later.